Ready when you are. Welcome everyone to the 2021 Vice Presidential Debate as part of the Iowa State Student Government Elections. My name is Ross Opie. I'm the Election Commissioner for Student Government. Moderating alongside me tonight is Jake Tubbs from the Iowa State Daily. Due to the university's COVID-19 restrictions, this debate's in-person attendance has been limited to both campaign teams, the Election Commission members, and the Memorial Union event staff. We would like to thank both the Olson-Gonzalez and the Campbell-Decker campaign, as well as the entire Election Commission and Iowa State Daily for their preparation leading up to tonight's event. The debate structure will be as follows. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give an opening statement. We will then have topical questions for both candidates to answer, and we will then go into specific questions for each candidate's platform. At that point, we'll take a 5-minute break, and when we resume, we'll be asking questions that have been submitted by the student body. For those watching at home, the link to submit your questions is on the Election Commission debate webpage. And at the end of the debate, each candidate will have time to make a closing statement, and that will wrap up our event. We'll now go into opening statements. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to introduce themselves and tell the constituents a little bit about themselves and why they want to be your next class body vice president. Starting with Ms. Gonzalez.
My name is Mariana Gonzalez. I am a second-year student studying political science and public relations from Eagle Grove, Iowa. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm so excited to be running for your next student body vice president. Senior Director of Communications Anna Olson and I have been committed to serving Cyclones since we arrived at campus, and this has shown through our leadership. As a first-generation student and a woman of color, I have thrown myself into leadership positions and being involved on campus. For example, I have been a 2020 Cyclone Aide, proud Kappa Kappa Gamma member, and member of Unidas, a multicultural vision program scholar, worked in the student government office as a manager, and currently work as a student telecounselor in the admissions office. In student government, I've been a past IRHA senator and currently serve my constituents as a collegiate Panhellenic Council senator and vice speaker of the Senate. Through these roles, I've been able to get to know student government and also get to know the Iowa State campus. Director of Communications Anna Olson and I are so excited to continue serving Cyclones in these positions and look forward to serving through our platform points, which highlight and include areas of diversity and inclusion, sustainability and affordability, and mental and physical health. With COVID entering us into a new normal and to the next year, Anna and I believe that we need strong leaders, and we are prepared to do this for our students.
Ms. Decker, you have 90 seconds for an opening statement.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here tonight. My name is Megan Decker, and I'm running to be your next student body vice president. I want to thank the Iowa State Daily, as well as the Election Commission for hosting this event tonight so we can talk about issues pertinent to cyclones. I'm originally from Rockwell City, Iowa. Here at Iowa State, I study agriculture and society and journalism and mass communication. Prior to my time as a Cyclone, I've worked in the state capitol, both in the legislative and executive branches. But more importantly, my adventure at Iowa State has consisted of a variety of experiences, including recruiting new students to our university as a College of Agriculture and Life Sciences ambassador, to promoting student wellness as a group fitness instructor, and lobbying on behalf of Cyclones on issues pertaining to mental health, affordability, and safety as a legislative ambassador. Over the past couple of months, Julia Campbell and myself have had a multitude of conversations with students, faculty, and members of our state government, and we have developed a platform focusing on fostering a strong sense of community, improving student success in and outside of the classroom, and encouraging financial success for all Cyclones. I have full confidence that with Julia and I's combined leadership experience, we can best represent the interests of all Cyclones. Thank you.
I forgot to mention, if you would like, you can remove your masks while you're standing behind the podium.
We will now move into the topical questions. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question. We're going to move into the discussion on the impact of COVID-19. The first question is, according to the Center of Disease Control, over 500,000 plus deaths have occurred throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Many preventative measures to stop the spread of the virus, such as the use of masks and social distancing, rely upon individual personal responsibility to guard the vulnerable members of the population. What responsibilities do you believe that college students have in keeping themselves and fellow students safe in regards to preventing the spread of COVID-19? Starting with Ms. Gonzalez.
Students in college hold a very strong responsibility in helping prevent the disease of COVID-19. Ames is our community, and we need to make sure that we do our part to keep it safe. When we arrived on campus, I was a strong proponent of the Cyclone Care Act behaviors and making sure that my sorority followed these as well, as I do live in the chapter facility. College students have a duty not only to the professors that are also in the classes with them, but also to their fellow peers, because you never know whether your neighbor or your project mate has those underlying conditions or has somebody that has those underlying conditions that affect them as well. And so I've had conversations with Teelan Student Health to continue these measures until we are all vaccinated and can safely return to a new normal.
Ms. Steger?
Yeah, I think the impacts of COVID have impacted all students, and it's hard to be selfless in some of those acts when there's a lot of online virtual environments that we all are immersed in, whether that's in classes, clubs, etc. And so I think thinking beyond yourself and knowing that it's not only good for the Iowa State community and the rest of the student population of 31,000 students, but also the surrounding community that interact with Iowa State, such as the Ames and Story County, as well as the Midwest in general for how many students come here. So I would say think bigger than yourself because it's impacting more people than just you as a cyclone.
Ms. Gonzalez, since the start of the pandemic, the university has taken several steps to slow the spread of the virus, including reducing in-person classes to half the original size, increasing sanitization practices in all university buildings, and imposing a mask mandate on all university property. Later on down the road, when this is hopefully all behind us, what pandemic-related policies would you want to get rid of, and what policies, if any, would you want to maintain?
Yeah, so this is a great discussion for our cyclones moving into this new normal. Now that we have seen that it can be done to have virtual classes and hybrid methods of teaching, students who once had extenuating circumstances before the pandemic had a difficult time reaching these forms of teaching. And so moving into a new normal, we want to make sure that these options are still available for our cyclones and that we work with administration and faculty to make sure that these options aren't taken away when we know that we have the capabilities and abilities to do so. So our campaign would be willing to work and collaborate to make sure that these efforts are still continued and practice those cyclones care habits so that students can still feel safe, healthy, and sanitized while being here. Because while COVID may still go away, we do have those, other diseases like the flu and whatnot that still impact our cyclones.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Later on down the road, when this is hopefully behind us, what pandemic-related policies would you want to get rid of, and what policies, if any, would you want to maintain?
I would say there's nothing like in-person learning. So I think as we move forward into fall of 2021, we want to have as many hands-on learning experiences as we can while keeping cyclones safe. I think moving forward into the fall, something big on our minds is going to be the vaccine. And students hopefully encouraged to get vaccinated. I know we're probably last on the list as college students, but making sure that's accessible for students and that they're aware of the benefits for not only themselves, but the surrounding communities as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the Story County and beyond the Iowa State community.
Speaking of that list, Ms. Decker, according to the CDC, healthy college students are likely to be included in phase 2 of their vaccination rollout plan. What are your thoughts regarding vaccine distribution, and how would your administration promote COVID-19 vaccinations among the Iowa State community?
Well, under community on our platform, we say support. We want to support the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. And like I said, that goes beyond the Iowa State community. So we want to partner with local as well as the state health departments to make sure to target and identify which members of the Iowa State community, as well as the surrounding communities, professors, and the people who interact with Iowa State at career fairs and through recruitment. So identifying those areas and working with the state and local health departments, I think, is going to be key moving forward into 2021, when hopefully we all can become vaccinated moving into the fall semester.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yeah, so we actually had the Director of Distribution come speak to the Senate at the beginning of the semester when a resolution was introduced by Senator Zastro regarding COVID-19. And so even back then, Iowa State was ready with the proper supplies needed to distribute these vaccines. And so Anna and I are so excited to make sure that our Cyclones become vaccinated and we can return to a safe campus for the fall 2021 and 2022 year. We'll be able to utilize the programs and connections through Thielen Student Health Center on campus, and then we can also partner with Mary Greeley Hospital to help those students that may be living off campus or who may not be living close enough to Thielen. And so just working with these administrations and these institutions, and then also utilizing buildings like Stevens Auditorium and maybe Fisher Theater.
Ms. Decker. We'll now move into questions surrounding student government and transparency. At the start of this year, there were 34 sitting senators. As of last week, there were 26. What does that say about the functionality and inclusivity of student government, and how would you go about creating a solution to this problem?
Well, student government, first and foremost, is supposed to be representation on behalf of all students, and I think it starts there. Sometimes there can be a negative connotation with student government that it's just for political science majors, and I know that that's not true. There's opportunities for so many areas, not only within politics and government and leadership on campus, but also sustainability and communications as well. So I think opening up the idea of student government to people that may not normally get involved is key, and I think fostering an environment where different people aren't just welcomed into it, but they're celebrated. So I think that starts with outreach. So if you know someone that you think would be great at that role, recruit them. And I think fostering an environment and a strong community within student government where people feel that their ideas are welcome, respected, and that they're a valued member of student government, I think is going to be key.
Ms. Gonzalez, same question to you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. I have been a part of student government for the past 2 years, and I have served as a senator and now vice speaker for 2 of those years. And I have noticed a pattern. My first year, there was a very inclusive, welcoming environment, and this was done because of the leaders in student government. And I very much appreciated those people, and they know who they are. And then this year, it's easy to blame COVID for discrepancies or not feeling connected, but I really do believe it is because of the people that you put in this room. And so during our administration, we would make sure that communities like people who identify in the BIPOC community and the LGBTQIA+ community feel welcomed into these roles, as well as, like Megan said, community or leaders who aren't poli-sci majors, who aren't policy makers. Anybody can have a role in student government, and I did mention this in my daily profile because there can't just only be a handful of leaders. There are leaders everywhere, and it is our job and duty to make sure that we reach out to them.
Ms. Decker, the student government budget in 2021 was $2.6 million, and it originates from student activity fees, a fee that every student pays as part of their U-bill. With the declining enrollment rates, how much of a concern is keeping a balanced budget, and how do you plan to deal with a decreased budget?
Julia Campbell and myself are big proponents of financial success. That's one of the key things on our platform. And I think moving forward, we want to make sure those funds that are taken from students, the hard-earned money, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it does add up. And I think using those funds to benefit the most students possible is going to be key. So making sure that the programs that are implemented and where the money is going to benefit the most students possible. I think that's going to be important. And we're big proponents of financial success on every level. I know it doesn't seem like a large part of the money we pay as students, but it does add up, like I said. So making sure that money is getting put to good use and to benefit the most students possible.
Will there be any areas that you will be considering cutting first?
I don't believe there's any areas in particular that we'd be cutting first, but we would want to allocate funds towards learning communities. That's something on our platform under community. So learning communities, I'm a big proponent of because I think they're essential for first-year students at Iowa State, and that is something that over the last 20 years they've grown exponentially, but the funding hasn't increased at all. So that's an area that we spoke with Kyle Holtman and Jennifer Lepton, who are in charge of learning communities at Iowa State, and that's an area we would love to allocate more funds for within student government.
Same question to you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Yeah, so we are seeing a decline in enrollment and therefore a decline in student fee money that we can use. And so our administration, Ann and I, would be willing to work with our finance director, whoever that may be next year, to make sure that we are getting the student fee money back to our students and prioritizing them because this is their money. Going off of our platform points, we are also looking into affordability by extending OERs, which are an alternative way to educate yourselves in coursework. And we also want to work with the Iowa State University to see where we can cut costs. For example, Anna and Eliana hosted Women's Week with less than $1,000 of student government money. And this conference was amazing. And so they were able to do it by reaching out to various other organizations.
Ms. Gonzalez, many members in student government report a disconnect between the organization and the student body. If elected, one of the main responsibilities of Vice President is to preside over the Senate. How will you ensure that the Senate and its members will be active within their constituencies and represent them diligently?
So I've heard students feel like they are isolated and lonely. I am a student telecounselor, as I've mentioned, in the admissions office. And so I would just want to make sure that our students are engaged and feel a welcoming presence as soon as they approach Anna or myself or any member of the student government body. Senators will have to do a tremendous job of outreach towards their constituency, but I believe with Anna and I motivating them and embracing their abilities to do so will help them be catalysts in their areas, whether that's a residency or a constituency council or their academic colleges, and know that they have the abilities to do so. When a leader invests in another leader, that's how we make a great campus for everyone. And so I'm very excited to have the opportunity to do so if I'm able to be in this role and make sure that everybody feels valued as a member of student government and just Iowa State in general.
Ms. Decker?
Like I said earlier, representation is key, and that is the whole point of student government, is to best represent its constituents, which is all of us as students. So I think something specifically that we would like to implement if Julia and I were to be elected would be for senators to attend more club meetings. So I know I had a couple of conversations with some senators currently in student government, and they do a great job a couple of them do a great job of going to the college that they represent, student council, as well as clubs, and telling and giving a little bit of a presentation maybe and saying, this is what student government is, this is what I do to represent you. And I think that is so effective to show younger students as well as just students in general what student government is and how to best represent them. So hearing what's on your mind, how can I help? So I think that would be a great thing to implement, is encouraging senators to go to as many club meetings as possible with their constituents that are involved in.
Ms. Decker, you talk about how Iowa State student government is supposed to represent the entire student body. Both campaigns have stated that they want to be leaders and represent all students at ISU. Students have the most direct engagement with student government during the two-day student government election period. However, only 15% of the total student population votes. With a public largely uninformed about the mission and responsibilities of student government, how do you promote awareness of student government's role and encourage student engagement?
Well, Well, you are correct, and that is really disappointing. The voter turnout rate every year is only about 15%. So most students don't know who represents them and what student government truly is. And so I think what's key there, like I said, is outreach and speaking to students. And student government may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it is really important for the constituents to know who's representing them and how they're working on their behalf. So I think we're looking into the future. If Julie and I were to be elected, we want to surround ourselves with a diverse team of people that look different than us, are from different backgrounds, different majors, and different areas across the university, so we can best represent and give those people a seat at the table when decisions are being made.
Ms. Gonzalez.
I'm proud to say that I am running alongside and am involved, have a campaign manager of Eliana and Senior Director of Outreach, Crab. They have actually upped our Instagram follower account by 30%. And so that is the type of outreach and logistics that we are looking for when we talk about engaging with students. As a Cyclone Aid, as a Unidas member, as a Multicultural Vision Program scholar, I have been able to outreach to students and talk to them about what student government does for them, and I continue to want to do this. When you are approachable, when you say a woman of color, people who look like me on campus are more inclined to reach out to me and ask if there is a seat for them at the table. And so we actually have the largest voter turnout in the Big 12 conference. And so I would just want to continue this type of voter turnout and just improve outreach overall coming into this next administration.
Ms. Decker, any student who wants to be involved in student government, but not necessarily as a senator, has the opportunity to apply to Senate committees, Executive Cabinet, Election Commission, and the judiciary. What actions will you take to promote and fill these vitally important positions?
I think what's important and what gets people truly involved and like they could have a purpose in student government is personable connections. So sending out an email is great. That's how I got involved in student government, was the email you receive in your inbox, applying through that, which is awesome. But I think that personable connection where you go up to someone you know or people you know, or even younger students especially, and say, you would be great in this role. I would love for you to lead and serve. And really reaching out one-to-one. I know some senators who have done that and really encouraged younger students to get involved when they probably wouldn't have before or would have just deleted that email in their inbox. So I think that personable approach is so important when getting students involved in anything, and especially student government when a leader approaches them.
Ms. Gonzalez.
I actually started in student government. I was a first-year council member when then first-year council president and now Speaker Ludwig considered me to fill that IRHA senator role because he knew that I would be a great leader and had ambitions for student government. And so like Megan said, reaching out to those leaders on campus that we know are out there and are looking for a new opportunity to advance in a way to serve their community. And not only filling those roles with people that surround us, but getting to know people who we may not have considered in the first place. So that's how we network and make those connections, is by reaching out to students who we may not have even considered or who may not even know about student government. As I mentioned before, there are so many leaders on campus, and if they just follow their passion, whether that's sustainability, affordability, diversity, and inclusion, there is a spot for everyone on student government.
All right, for the final question, Ms. Decker, what does your vision of an effective and efficient student government look like? And how will you work to create and maintain this vision of student government?
Well, one of our key platform points is community. So fostering a strong sense of community, not only in the classroom, not only in student organizations, but in student government as well. And I think that we want members of student government, whether that be a member of a committee or a senator or a cabinet member, to feel respected and welcomed and given a seat at the table when decisions are being made. And I think that that starts with a diverse team, but also an environment where they're going because they like it, and it's a place where they feel like they belong. So like I said earlier, I think we want student government, we want to foster an environment and a community in student government where you don't feel like you're just wanted, but you're celebrated for who you are and your ideas are heard. So I think that's key when going forward, and I hope that Julia and I, if we were to be elected, can have an effective community within student government.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Would you please repeat the question?
Of course. What does your vision of an effective and efficient student government look like, and how will you work to create and maintain this vision of student government?
So thankfully, this past year, we have been able to meet in person for our student government senate meetings. And so, just continuing those Roberts rules, making sure that our new senators are educated in how we conduct our meetings would help improve efficiency and effectiveness within our meetings. And then as far as our committee meetings, just having those strong directors on our cabinet, make sure that they know how to lead their meetings and are connecting with their committee members to find the most efficient use of their time when they're planning projects for our students, and making sure that they are using an efficient amount of their abilities and embracing those types of areas. And yes.
All right, we will now move into questions surrounding campus climate as well as diversity and inclusion. Ms. Decker, how will you work to foster a campus climate built on a robust discussion of ideas, including views that you don't agree with and/or are unpopular?
Thank you for that question. I truly believe that if Julie and I were to be elected, we would hope to surround ourselves, starting with cabinet, with a diverse group of people. So people that think differently than us, look differently than us, and also are from different backgrounds and different majors across campus. I think listening louder than we're speaking is key when fostering or when not only growing a team, but I think that that's going to be key for us is forming a team of diverse people that we can listen louder than we speak and truly give those people a seat at the table when decisions are being made.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Serving Cyclones has been Anna and I's main priority during this campaign season. And so when building our platform, we looked at areas like having bi-weekly meetings with multicultural groups on campus and creating a diversity liaison. Why? Because we knew that these groups are on campus and wanted a voice in student government. And so we are committed to meeting with these people and making sure that their concerns are heard and listened to, and that we can take action and collaborate with them to find solutions, as well as supporting other areas such as house training with IRHA and collaborating with these groups. We know that we can surround ourselves with other leaders and create a diverse culture of ideas and values that we can continue to create a great student government that is representative of all Cyclones.
Ms. Decker, what area do you see as needing the most improvement when it comes to campus climate and inclusion, and how would you address it?
I think engagement is going to be the biggest, I would say, barrier that we're going to reach in the next year, especially going into the fall, when we have a variety of students coming from different backgrounds, different learning environments. And I think that the area needing most improvement that we can, an actionable item on our platform that we can improve this with is learning communities. So like I said, engagement on campus is huge. So learning communities allow first-year students, whether that be transfer students or freshmen, to meet students in their major and also learn professional skills and understand their discipline better. So I think improving learning communities, whether that be financially and also fostering an environment of collaboration amongst the different colleges, would be an actionable thing we want to do to improve learning communities.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Iowa State needs to focus on making Ames and the surrounding area home for our Cyclones. I've been here before COVID struck, during COVID, and I hope to be here after COVID. And so our Cyclones need to feel safe and included and respected as soon as they step on campus. And we've been committed to doing this by reaching out and already talking with groups like International Student Council, Black Student Alliance, and many other students who feel like they haven't had the opportunity to make this place their home. And so, as I've said before, our platform was built on these diversity and inclusion values. And so we would just like to help projects like the Divine Nine plot, which would be a space for students to be able to gather comfortably and speak and just share experiences with their fellow Cyclones.
Ms. Decker, In light of recent First Amendment discussions for students and student organizations, how do you plan to make sure everyone's voice is heard when discussing freedom of speech?
Well, I think freedom of speech is so important for students to feel, regardless of their opinion, that is respected and they can share it here at Iowa State. I think President Winterstein did a great job of implementing the free speech, knowing your rights into each of the class syllabus. So Iowa and UNI have followed in our footsteps. So I think that's important. Knowing your rights and knowing that this is a place where you can share them is important for Cyclones to call Iowa State their home.
Ms. Gonzalez?
I'm a big proponent of the First Amendment and making sure that we protect Cyclones' and anybody's First Amendment right to freedom of speech. But we also need to make sure that we're being fair within that. And, you know, that with First Amendment rights, it can always be a difficult subject to approach, but with proper leadership, we can make sure that students have that flexibility of being able to share their opinions and their values, while also making sure that we respect each other and just have those conversations and just refocusing back on the principles of community that we have been missing out on lately. I feel that we have been missing on lately because our Cyclones need to be reminded of those principles of community to know how to interact with each other on campus.
We are now going into the section that will cover student wellness and sustainability, starting with Ms. Gonzalez. Promoting student mental health has become an increasingly important topic in recent years. How will you ensure that every student feels welcome and open to express themselves and has access to the help they may need?
Mental health is such an important topic for college students. And so that's why I am so proud that I was able to vote yes on the TAO app last year as a senator. So this application is provided through the Student Services and is kind of it's an application you can download on your phone, and it helps guide you through mental health issues that a student may be having. It's great to be on the go and is kind of an assistant to therapy and those other types of services. And so looking forward into what we can do to improve mental health services is having collaboration with Teal Student Health and improving the TAO app, and then also making sure that we support legislation on the state and federal level through organizations like the Big 12 Conference.
Ms. Decker?
Mental health is so important for college students, like Mariana mentioned, and something on our platform that is an actionable item for mental health, to improve mental health accessibility for Cyclones, is mental health accessibility across state lines. So currently, if I lived in Illinois and went home for breaks, summers, or was home during the semester during the virtual environment we live in, I wouldn't be able to access mental health services at Iowa State unless the counselor was licensed in multiple states other than Iowa. So one thing that Julie and I want to do in our platform is implement grants for counselors through Iowa State Student Services to become licensed in multiple states. So those students who go home for breaks, summers, or are home during the semester can access mental health services, so it's more accessible for all Cyclones. Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez? Both of the campaigns represented here today list sustainability as an important initiative for their campaign. What are some sustainable practices your administration would hope to implement?
Yeah, so our administration would be hoping to expand on composting on campus. So when you go to the dining halls, when you go to the C-store, the storage bins that you use to get your food are actually compostable, and so paper towels are compostable. So we want to raise that awareness and making sure that we have the option, or that students have the options to compost those instead of just throwing them along with the trash. And then as well, we want to make sure that we work with groups like IRHA to implement house training on sustainability efforts, so that when our Cyclones come to the residence halls, they'll know how to practice those healthy habits for the next 4 years while they are here. And so just collaborating and making sure that awareness about sustainability efforts are made, and as well as working with organizations on campus, such as Campus Climate Reality Corps.
Ms. Decker?
Yeah, as for sustainability, there's two key actionable items on Julie and I's platform that we would love to implement if we were to be elected. So one of them being an on-campus drop site for the Ames Food Waste Diversion Program. So if there was a drop site closer to campus, maybe near the Greek community or on campus, students would be more encouraged to compost and bring that when they wouldn't have to make another trip to drop off their compost items. They could drop it off when they come to campus. So that would be encourage students to compost, and it would be a closer option for campus. Another big key item would be increasing locally sourced food and dining centers by 5% over the next 10 years. So not only does this reduce carbon emissions for traveling expenses, it keeps growth in the local economy, as well as partnering with local vendors and local producers, and maybe even the horticulture department on campus, so bringing on campus jobs as well.
Ms. Gonzalez, the CDC published a recent study where it found that 40% of U.S. adults reported struggles with their mental health. The National Institute of Mental Health has previously reported that individuals between the ages of 18 and 25 have the highest prevalence of issues associated with mental health prior to the pandemic. COVID-19 has magnified the prevalence of mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety in college students. What are your main concerns about mental health in the Iowa State student community, and how do you plan to address this issue?
As a 2020 cyclone aide, I saw a lot of this as I was helping transition students from high school into college life. A lot of students reached out to me saying that they felt isolated, lonely in their residence halls. And so transitioning to a new normal into this academic year, we want to make sure that we can find ways to build a sense of community in a healthy and safe way for our cyclones. And so this begins with being creative with our directors on our cabinet to find ways that we can use our student fee money that we receive to create events in which cyclones can participate and is welcome to all cyclones to make sure that we foster that sense of community and that they're able to find a home at Iowa State, as I've mentioned before, because that is important. To find that atmosphere and that environment throughout these next 4 years.
Ms. Decker?
On issues pertaining to mental health, I think accessibility is key. So like I mentioned earlier, making it more accessible for out-of-state students, Julia and myself want to implement grants so workers so counselors through mental health services can become licensed in multiple states. Another actionable item to make mental health services more accessible for cyclones would be implementing a mental health tab on the My State app. So the My State app, most cyclones have to use for SciRide and many other services, but having a tab on the My State app where students there could be an emergency contact number, but also just showing and offering the services that Iowa State offers makes it more accessible, and so students know what they have, what is offered at Iowa State and what they can use to hopefully better their mental health.
We will now move into candidate-specific questions. You will have 60 seconds to answer the question that is directed towards you, and we'll start with Ms. Decker. One of the financial success goals your campaign has promoted is to provide grant opportunities for student organizations to cover membership dues. What would this look like, and how would it be funded?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, engagement on campus is going to be a really big point as we're looking towards the next year, and re-engaging those students who either maybe have never seen Iowa State without COVID, people who have seen Iowa State in a normal year and are trying to get re-engaged on campus, and bringing in those new students from high school from a variety of learning environments, virtual, hybrid, etc. So I think with grant opportunities for student organizations to cover membership dues, a small amount would make a big impact. So currently $20 is about the average for club membership due, and so a small grant as of $500 would cover a lot of students to be able to join that club and remove that financial burden for students, so they were able to become involved on campus and improve engagement as well.
Ms. Gonzalez, your campaign has identified inclusivity and diversity on campus as one of your top priorities. One project you support is the Divine Nine plot. Could you speak more about that, and how do you believe it will create a more equitable campus experience?
I'm so excited to talk about the Divine Nine plot. This is a great project that was created and came up with by our former president, Julian Neely. He was a catalyst for this project, and he thought that BIPOC students on campus deserved some representation, and I completely agree with that. And so that's why Anna and I have had conversations to see how student government can be an assistant in this project. And so what the Divine Nine plot would do is that it would showcase the historically black sororities and fraternities on campus, which is known as our NPHC organization. And it would be a place for students to congregate. Right now, it is supposed to break ground on the left side of the Memorial Union. And so Anna and I would be, our administration and our student government and finance director would be working with the sorority and fraternity engagement office to make sure that this project is funded and so that it can break ground and we can have a space for, like I said.
Thank you. Ms. Decker, if elected, you say you wish to increase locally sourced foods in ISU dining centers. With locally sourced foods often running a higher price tag, what is your campaign strategy to balance sustainability and nutrition with an increasingly tight budget?
Well, currently 11% of the food used in our dining centers is locally sourced, which I think is really awesome for Iowa State to say. Now, I think looking forward into the future, we have about a 10-year timeline on this platform point. So over the next 10 years, we want to increase locally sourced food by 5%. We hope that there wouldn't be any raise in cost from this at all because we're reducing traveling expenses and keeping economic growth in the local economy. So as we look forward and try to find more locally sourced food, we hope that would not increase a financial burden on students whatsoever.
Ms. Gonzalez, your campaign proposes working with the IRHA and the Recycling and Special Events Coordinator to implement House and DIS training regarding common sense recycling. Could you explain what this training would entail for incoming students?
Absolutely. So transitioning into a new normal, Anna and I have had conversations with President Sidney of IRHA to see what this would look like for incoming students. And so our idea right now, although it is ever evolving and improving, the idea right now is that students would go to their house meetings in their residence halls and meet with their community advisor and have these booklets and conversations about what ways can we make a small impact so as a university we can reduce our carbon footprint and just be better community members of Iowa State and Ames in general. And so these would hopefully be face-to-face to interact and build off of ideas with other students and make sure that we emphasize how important it is to be a healthy, safe, and sustainable member of the Iowa State community.
Ms. Decker, one of your goals, if elected, is to get Cyclone Cash Course recognition during Financial Literacy Month. Could you please explain the benefits that this could have on the average student?
Yes, of course. So the Cyclone Cash course that's currently in place for freshmen, only 60% of freshmen complete it. And there's not a positive incentive for doing so or a negative consequence for not doing it. But the Cash course does have great information on financial literacy, so Cyclones can become more financially literate. A small incentive such as donuts on campus, if you show that you completed the Cyclone Cash course, would incentivize students to complete the program and become more financially literate. So I think this is a small way for students to become more educated, and it would be in this April if we were to be elected.
Ms. Gonzalez, one way you plan to address the improvement of mental and physical health of students is improving student-athlete resources based on Baylor University's policies. Could you speak on what outcome that has had at Baylor and how that would translate to the implementation at Iowa State?
Yeah, so at Baylor, we have seen a positive reaction and outcome for those student athletes. And so we want to make sure that our Iowa State Cyclone athletes feel like they are being also represented by student government and supported through our student services, and that we are prioritizing their mental health as well, because they are not just athletes to us. They are students, they are people, and they're normal. They're just like us, and they also have mental health issues. And so we want to implement those policies and transition them into a way that Iowa State can also kind of mold it for our athletes and make sure that they have a way to reach out, during their busy schedules and during what is their busy life.
All right, we will now take a quick 5-minute break. I encourage the people that are watching online to submit the Google form and ask questions to the candidates. When we return, we will be asking those questions on behalf of the student body. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to go into questions submitted by the student body. Some of these apply to both candidates, some apply to individual candidates. We'll just go from here. First, Ms. Decker. As a vice presidential candidate without previous experience being a senator in student government, how would you plan to lead Senate meetings, and what other experience would you bring to the table?
Yeah, so I am a first-year student this year at Iowa State, but I do believe that gives me a completely unique perspective that no other member of the executive slates running has. I started college during a global pandemic. I don't know what Iowa State looks like without a global pandemic, and I think that unique perspective has been infused in every area of our platform to represent those students currently starting in their first year at Iowa State during these unique circumstances, but also representing the future students who start college through this ongoing pandemic. I also am familiar with the rules and procedure of Senate meetings. I was a proud member of the FFA in high school, understanding the parliamentary procedure. I've also had multiple experiences in our state government as a Senate page and intern in the office of the governor, so I am familiar with the rules and procedures that occur in the Iowa legislature and the same as the Iowa State Senate. So although I may have not had those experiences in student government, I have had those experiences elsewhere that I want to bring to the table in student government.
All right, this one's to both you guys. Over the past few years, student government has championed several resolutions and programs to combat racism and bigotry on campus. However, these largely have not changed campus climate because student government has been mostly unsuccessful in influencing administrative policy concerning racist and bigoted behavior. Please name at least one actionable demand you plan on taking to the administration to better serve the diversity of the student body in the future. Starting with Ms. Gonzalez.
This is a great concern that I'm so happy that our student body is recognizing. Diversity is not just a buzzword for myself. I am a part of a marginalized community. I am a woman of color, so I understand completely where that student is coming from. My brother was the CA on duty during the Bean incident last year in Joffrey, and so I have this same passion for diversity and inclusion on campus. And so when it comes to collaborating with the administration, I want to make sure Ann and I have put on our platform taking principles of renaming action policy and making sure that this policy is evolving with the students' needs and concerns, and making sure that that policy and process is transparent with our students. And so I would demand a more transparent process with our students and making sure that those voices are heard when they are given back on the feedback forms.
Ms. Decker?
Well, the issue of diversity is of utmost importance to Julia and myself, to surround ourselves with people different than ourselves. I said that earlier, and I'm going to say it again. An actionable item that we want to take that's on our platform in regards to diversity and inclusion is a diversity, equity, and inclusion certificate. So currently, Cornell University out in New York offers this, and it would be a great implementation at Iowa State to explore implicit bias, to understand the communities that go to Iowa State, and to foster a better community at Iowa State. So I think even going into the future in their professional careers, having that understanding is extremely important. And I think the certificate would be a great stride for Iowa State to make.
Ms. Gonzalez, you have 45 seconds for a rebuttal.
While I appreciate the sentiment of wanting to make sure that our community members are educated on diversity and inclusion, as mentioned before in the question itself, is that student government and the community as a whole has had presentations and speakers come in to talk about diversity and inclusion, and I don't believe that a certificate would make our campus a more susceptible to diversity and inclusion, because we've seen that these tactics have not been as effective. And so I would just say, is there any more like person-to-person experience type of approach that you want to have with this? Because as a person of color, a certificate is not enough to make me know that a person is safe for me to interact with.
Well, the certificate is not required. If you're familiar with the leadership or entrepreneurship certificate at Iowa State, it would be similar to that. So it would be something that students would choose to do. But I am thankful that our university administration has taken strides towards cultural competency training that is going to be implemented in this fall. So thankfully our university is already doing that, and I hope that is a great effort to have a more inclusive environment at Iowa State.
This student has a question for Ms. Gonzalez. During your time as CPC Senator, one of your tasks included going to the delegate meetings every other week and being the voice of the sorority housing community. During your time, I have unfortunately not seen you at most of these meetings this year. Is there a reason for this absence? And in the future, if you are elected into the role of VP, how will you prioritize your tasks and meetings and make sure they will all be completed?
Unfortunately, the CPC delegate meetings are the exact same time and day as the Student Government Senate meetings. And so coincidentally, it's just bad timing. But I have been in contact with our CPC delegate within my chapter to make sure that I receive the minutes afterwards to just keep an update on what is going on in those delegate meetings and just stay current. And so unfortunately, if a constituent of mine does feel that I have lacked, that is my fault, and I do take responsibility for that. But it just comes down to the timing of things, of me needing to be at student government, but I also do feel that responsibility towards my constituents, and so I do what I can to keep informed and updated of my constituency council and communicating with those exec member boards and those delegates just to make sure that I, again, am just updated on what is occurring in those meetings.
Question for Ms. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
You
I don't
have
have
one?
anything to say. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Question for you, Ms. Decker. How do you think that your unique perspective as a freshman at Iowa State allows you to contribute to your role as vice president of your campaign?
Well, like I said, this is a year like no other. We've never experienced this in our world before. So I think for a unique year, we're a unique ticket. And that's the perfect fit for Iowa State right now because starting college during a pandemic brings a whole new array of challenges that I experienced firsthand. Living in the residence halls and eating in the dining centers every day and trying to meet friends, joining learning communities, taking classes online, that has all been my experience, and that resonates with so many students here on campus, freshmen currently, but also students coming in the fall. I know what that's like, and it's really hard, and I think that those experiences I've had have been infused in every area of our platform, especially fostering a strong sense of community, improving student success and financial success. So knowing what that was like firsthand has allowed us to expand our horizons and bring that perspective to the table when making decisions.
Ms. Gonzalez, can you describe more about the expansion of gender-neutral bathrooms? How do you think this will benefit the ISU community?
So on our platform, Anna and I have made it our mission to make sure that gender-neutral bathrooms are included on the MyState app, so that cyclones that feel that this fit for them and is most accommodable for them is able to be easily accessible to those students. And so currently, Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Lauren Perk, has been able to champion that and make sure that there is a gender-neutral bathroom in the lead rec center. And so just continuing those types of improvements on campus so that every cyclone can use the bathroom that they feel most comfortable using.
All right, question for both you guys. Ms. Decker, you and Ms. Campbell belong to the College of Agriculture and Life Science, and Ms. Gonzalez, you and Ms. Olson belong to the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. If you were to win the election, how do you and your running mate plan to appeal and relate to the other students that are a part of different colleges during the next school year? Starting with Ms. Decker.
Yeah, so first of all, Julia and I both are members of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. We also are both members of Liberal Arts and Sciences as well. I have a double major in journalism and mass communication, and Julia has a double major in economics. So I think that right there, we do represent more than one college. But beyond that, I think we have constantly strived to immerse ourselves in environments of people and groups that are different than ourselves. So Julia and I both belong also to ISU Rec Services, working as group fitness instructors, and many of the large majority of that population are kinesiology majors. So a lot of the environments we've immersed ourselves in and what we strive to bring into this campaign and to, if we were to be elected, our administration would be bringing all different colleges and backgrounds to the table because we have interacted with those people on a daily basis, and we hope to continue to do so if we were to be elected.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Being a 2020 Cyclone aide, I've had the opportunity to learn about every college on campus and almost every organization as well. And so, interacting with those students in those colleges would be a breeze, honestly, for me. Anna is also a member of Rec Services. She is a lifeguard there. She also has an expansive knowledge and involvement in leadership organizations such as First Amendment Club and as a STAR representative. And so, we would be willing to continue our leadership into these other areas involving CALS, involving engineering college, human sciences, and reaching out to, again, students that are different from ourselves, students that we have reached out to before and will continue to reach out even after this whole campaign is over with.
This question is for both of you. What do you think is the biggest challenge for international students on campus? What will you do to address it? And how are you going to do a better job of communicating with international student leadership?
Starting with me. Okay. Yeah, I think that with international students, something that would help them feel at home at Iowa State would be learning communities. And that's something that's so important to Julia and myself to continue to improve existing learning communities, but support the ones that are there and form a collaborative effort. So I think for international students, I want them to feel at home here at Iowa State and that they have people supporting them and wanting them to succeed, that they're celebrated for being here. We're thankful to have such a diverse campus. So I think fostering that environment where they feel included, respected, and a valued member of the Iowa State community is going to be key, and I hope learning communities would be an integral part of that.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Anna and I actually just met with International Student Council to speak about these issues that international students are facing on campus. And so not too long ago, we were able to sit down with President and Vice President Cameron to speak on these issues. And something that Vice President Cameron relayed to me was that they had actually done an internal survey for international students, and they found that international students are feeling lonely and discriminated against. And so we have talked about having these conversations of how do we include our international students better and immerse them into our Iowa State community. And so they actually wanted to have a collaboration with student government to amplify their events that they have, such as a food fair that showcases their different cultures. And so allowing them to have a platform to speak about those events and also just supporting them in their concerns is something that Anna and I strive and are absolutely committed to doing.
Ms. Decker, this question was directed at you. Your profile states that you are involved in diverse activities. How would you describe your focus on agriculture involvement to be diverse?
Well, I am a member of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and that is true. I'm involved in CALS ambassadors through that. But besides that, I'm a member of the Alpha Delta Pi sorority, which encompasses women from all majors across campus. So that would be one area. I'm a member of legislative ambassadors through student government, which encompasses, again, a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. I also involved in SALT Company, which is a religious organization on campus, probably one of the largest organizations on campus, which again encompasses many different majors and groups of people beyond the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. I continue to immerse myself in those environments that, again, are people with different backgrounds than myself. And Rec Services would be another one. Like I said, the overwhelmingly majority of students in Rec Services are not Agriculture and Life Sciences majors. So I continue to immerse myself in those environments, and I think that's important to continue if we were to be elected.
Ms. Gonzalez?
While I do agree that there is an expansive amount of ideas and values within those organizations, I think what the person was trying to relay was that diversity and inclusion and those types of groups matter. And so hearing you speak about these organizations, I do agree there is a variety of people there. But Anna and myself have met with groups such as Black Student Alliance, International Student Council, the Center, which is for students who identify as part of the LGBTQIA+ community. And so I was just wondering, what kind of outreach have Campbell and yourself done for these types of communities that, oftentimes feel that they are discriminated on campus?
Well, I think it was important during the last couple of months and leading up to the campaign season for us to have a wide variety of conversations with not only students, but faculty as well that represents those different diverse groups, whether that be race or ethnicity, but also different socioeconomic backgrounds and other areas as well. So I think we did have many conversations with different groups on campus and different individuals representing areas of student government. And I think that that was important to us, was to gain a unique perspective that was different than ours.
This is for both of you. Much like the federal government, the vice president presides over the Senate during their meetings. How will you be able to handle the task of conducting business discussing legislative matters while following parliamentary procedures, starting with Ms. Gonzalez?
I've sat through 2 years of student government Senate meetings, and so through my time, I have been able to actively and enthusiastically participate and learn how these Senate meetings are run. And so student government is a time commitment, not gonna lie. And I have been there and I have shown up for every single meeting to make sure that I can evolve into this role and into the role of a vice president effectively and efficiently. And so that had started with this year, just moving up into the position as vice speaker and assisting the speaker and vice president in the duties to run these meetings as efficiently as possible. And so I'm excited and enthusiastic to continue this practice and make our Senate meetings even better for next year and for our students.
Ms. Decker, same question to you.
Yeah, so the main role of the vice president is to preside over the Senate, and I think learning parliamentary procedure as well as Robert's rules is something I am well versed in. I was a proud member of the FFA for 4 years, working in both parliamentary procedure and doing various contests throughout that. I also have worked as a Senate page in the Iowa legislature, so I sat in the Senate chambers of the Iowa State Capitol for many, many hours, more than I can count, watching what the procedures look like, and it is the same procedure that is used in the Iowa State Senate here at Iowa State University. So I think watching those experiences and experiencing them firsthand, although it wasn't in Iowa State student government, it's the same procedure that is used in our state government and the parliamentary procedure used in the National FFA organization. So I am proud to have those experiences, and I do think I am capable of efficiently running Senate meetings.
All right, this question's directed to both you guys. Ms. Gonzalez, though, your home building, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Catt Hall, has been a subject of debate for decades due to Carrie Chapman Catt's association with white supremacy. What is your stance on renaming the building, and how would you enact change?
When Anna and I were creating our platform points, I remember that over the course of these events over this past summer, there was a lot of attention gravitated towards the renaming of Catt Hall. And so that's why President Wendy Winterstein and other faculty members created the Principles of Renaming Committee. And so that is why we included on our platform point. We want to make sure that when we utilize that seat at the table, it is being utilized with transparency and as a transmitter for student voices. And so personally, while I have my own beliefs and values, I know that when I am there, I am representing our student body. And so when we talk about having action there, it means being transparent with the policy that is evolving and improving it so that it meets the needs and concerns of the most affected students on campus. And so I am excited to collaborate and work with other students, faculty, and the administration to make sure that when we look at buildings such as Catt Hall and other structures on campus, we
Ms. Decker?
I think when approaching these situations where they're highly considering renaming buildings on campus, such as Catt Hall, it is important to gain as many perspectives as possible when you're making a decision. So I think that's important. It's not a one person decides for this kind of decision. As much as we'd like to be it like that sometimes, it's important to gain as many perspectives as possible and understand what the students think and educate them on what the situation is, and letting them understand, what impact would this have on campus, what impact would that have on themselves, and continue to gain perspectives before making that decision process. So I'm not one to decide whether that's right or wrong. That is for a large group of people too.
This question is for both of you. As we have seen over the course of the past year, there has been a certain amount of divisiveness and disagreement within the Student Government Senate. How would you go about getting senators to work together and collaborate, even in situations where they may have differing opinions? Starting with Ms. Gonzalez.
As I mentioned before, this year it has been unlike my first year on student government, and I have seen, an atmosphere of tension and divisiveness. And so that was definitely highlighted in one of our recent Senate meetings. And so going forward, Anna and I want to make sure that we discuss with senators what standards we hold for our student government Senate meetings and what we expect out of our senators. And so this is just having a transparent and honest conversation, but a respectful one about how we interact with our colleagues and making sure that our students know that our main priority there is to serve our cyclones. And so we want to include all voices and all students to these meetings. And at the beginning of each meeting, we do say, every student is a part of student government. And so, like I said before, Anna and I would just be setting a precedent of inclusivity and of respect.
Yeah, so the divisiveness of the Senate is sad to see, and we don't want to blame everything on the pandemic for the lack of community. But like I said earlier, fostering a strong sense of community is of the utmost importance to Julia Campbell and myself. And I think one thing we can do is not only foster a community within your academics and clubs and organizations on campus, but student government as well. And I think one way to do that would be if Julia and I were to be elected here at the end of March, we would want to set up a meeting with every single senator that's elected and understand what's on their minds, why are they in student government, and why are they passionate to be here, and what they want to do to best represent their students. So that would be our number one key goal when starting. So they're fostering an environment within Senate and understanding that we're all working towards the same goal. We're all working towards best representing our constituents and best representing cyclones. So I think that would be our overarching theme would be have the Senate be a place where students not only want to come because it's their job, but want to come because it's where their ideas are respected and valued.
Question directed at both of you. Could you briefly explain why your campaign comparatively would be most beneficial to ISU students? Ms. Gonzalez?
I am very excited about Anna and I's campaign for our students because we have had a history of rich leadership and involvement on campus. And so that happened the second that both of us stepped on campus. And we've been able to reach a wide variety of students during these times. No one had to motivate us. We were self-driven to do these and to serve our community. And so we want to continue to be able to do that through this leadership position and to make sure that we are using the roles of student body president and vice president to its maximum capacity and to its full effect. And so we believe that our campaign is different because we definitely highlight diversity and inclusion. I'm a woman of color, so I empathize with our BIPOC community. Less than 15% of our student body identifies as BIPOC community, and this is the type of leadership Iowa State deserves to see. And so Director of Outreach and Director of Communications, Anna Olson, and I are so excited to tackle life after COVID.
Ms. Decker?
3 ways that Julie and I have tried to approach this campaign season are being approachable, authentic, and actionable, which are 3 qualities that I believe all leaders should possess. Number 1, being approachable, meaning any student could come up to us, and even if we don't know the answer, we can direct you to the right resource and be a listening ear. Number 2, authentic, being clear and transparent with the people around us and through student government. And number 3, actionable, so knowing that not only are we listening to your ideas, we're thinking about ways that we could implement your ideas and elevate student voices. So we both have a strong curiosity to learn, and the environments around us we constantly immerse ourselves in. And so I think that strong curiosity, we want to learn from students as much as possible to elevate their voices, because that's truly what it's all about.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yeah, I've had pleasant experiences with both you and Ms. Campbell, so I've been very happy to have that. But I am concerned about one of those adjectives that you used which was actionable. So Anna and I, in our campaign on our website, we were we made sure to specify how we would approach our platform points. Unfortunately, on your campaign website, I did see the platform points, but there wasn't much detail or specification to how those would be reached. And so would there just be a better explanation, or how does your campaign feel about detailing and specify how you're going to reach those platform initiatives?
Well, I think our platform, many of the elements that are listed on our website are pretty clear cut and understandable, but going back to the 3 points I said, starting with approachable, Julia and myself want to be approachable with our platform. So if you do have questions, if there is a further elaboration that you would like, reach out to us over email, reach out to us over Instagram. We would be happy to answer those questions, and we would hope to help you understand them further. Some of the points are more clear cut than others, but I do believe there are actionable steps that we can take to foster a strong sense of community, encourage student success in and outside of the classroom, and improve financial success for all Cyclones. These are actionable items that we can take and implement.
Thank you. This is to both of you as well, starting with Ms. Gonzalez. In what capacity will you be involved in student government if you are not elected?
So looking at life after this campaign, I am excited to approach maybe a different leadership opportunity, whether that be in student government or finding my calling elsewhere on campus. But I do know for one thing for sure is that I will continue to serve my students. It's just been something that has been installed in me since I was a kid, honestly, being the line leader in elementary school. And so I can't step away from leadership. It's in my blood. And so whether that's serving on cabinet in student government, maybe being on a committee, doing advocacy work in the Ames community, or maybe looking elsewhere into different organizations on campus. And so, being involved is the main goal, and I'm committed to continuing to do that throughout my next 2 years here at Iowa State.
Ms. Decker.
Regardless of how this election turns out, I'm truly honored to be here, and I would say Mariana feels the same way. I'm so thankful to be a part of these conversations, and I truly believe the issues we've both identified, both campaigns, go beyond this election. I know the learning experiences that I've had from this are just incredible, and I think that the issues that I've become passionate about through this campaign, they will go beyond this election. I would love to work collaboratively with whoever's elected to get some of these things implemented that I am passionate about. So I think, again, it's a bigger purpose. This is beyond the election. These issues go beyond March 22nd and 23rd.
All right, final question of the night. What do you think your most important responsibility as vice president would be? Starting with Ms. Gonzalez.
Not only do I have an obligation to make sure that our Senate meetings are run efficiently and effectively and invite students into that atmosphere to make sure that their voices are being represented and heard, but I also have a responsibility to the student body to make sure that I am being a great leader and role model and representative of the Iowa State community. Having the trust of the student body, if Anna and I were to be elected, is a huge accomplishment and would be one of the greatest honors of my life, honestly. Seeing somebody as myself in this role would be unlike anything other that I've seen. And so hopefully I know that if I am in this role, I will be committed to serving students, to listening to our Cyclones, and making sure that we work collaboratively with all organizations on campus and continue this legacy of leadership that student government has had.
Ms. Decker?
Would you repeat the question one more time, please?
Of course. What do you think your most important responsibility as a vice president would be?
Well, if I were to be elected as vice president, I think one thing that is utmost important is to work collaboratively with the other members of student government and support Julia and I. So support Julia so we are able to work collaboratively with the rest of student government. I also think in this role, you're not only making changes, you're leading other people to make those changes with a cabinet, with a senate, with other students and getting them involved. So I think that's key is effective representation looks like outreach, looks like good conversations, and I think that it looks like a welcoming environment where people's ideas are heard, respected, and valued.
Thank you. We'll now move into closing statements. The candidates will have 90 seconds to make closing statements, starting with Ms. Gonzalez.
I want to thank the Election Commission and the ASL translators that are here, in part by Director of Communications and Director of Outreach, Anna Olson and Crab. They make sure that every student is able to have access to these debates. And so I do want to thank everybody who came together to have this event put on. Thank you to Megan Decker so that we could be able to discuss these issues that are important to students. Our platform focuses on diversity and inclusion, affordability and sustainability, and mental and physical health, because we've had these conversations with students, with faculty, and we have been experiencing it ourselves. Anna and I are just absolutely committed to serving our cyclones and making sure that students feel represented on campus and making sure that we build the organization of student government to be as efficient and as effective as possible. Being involved in student government, I've had the privilege of meeting so many wonderful people and being able to pass and see many actionable items. And so if elected into this role, I would just be so honored that the student body has chosen Anna and I to serve our community and to interact and lead our student body. I just want to say thank you to the groups that we have met with so far. This campaign has been built because of all of you, and so I'm so excited to continue this campaign, and I look forward to continuing to serve all Cyclones on campus. Thank you.
Ms. Decker.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Iowa State Daily as well as the Election Commission for all your hard work during this election season. You guys do so much and you've been so great to work with, so I want to thank you. I'm so honored to be here tonight to have these meaningful conversations about issues pertinent to Cyclones. Like I said, these issues go beyond the election. I'm so thankful Mariana and I can stand here tonight and speak before you about these issues. So Julie and I want to bring you approachable, authentic, and actionable leadership to elevate student voices, and I humbly ask for your vote on March 22nd and 23rd, and together we can elevate Iowa State. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This wraps up the end of the 2021 vice presidential debate. Thank you to both campaigns for attending tonight. Thank you to all the members of the Election Commission, the Iowa State Daily, as well as the MU event staff that helped in preparation for this event. For everyone that's watching right now, be on the lookout for the presidential debate. That will take place 1 week from now at 7 p.m., also in a virtual format, and that link can be found on the student government website. Thank you again to everyone involved. Have a great night.